And now we are live. This is Tony Blackman. I'm coming to you live from Dakar, Senegal, in West Africa, in the neighborhood of Ngor. I'm at a family home, Uncle Adama, my big brother, and I was not going to miss the final day of the LMC Virtual Summit for anything. Why? Because one of my favorite coaches in the world is presenting and sharing her understanding and her perspective of the harmonic body experience. So, her name is Takia. She's a master of many things in many areas, yet still humble enough to learn. And today, you're going to sit back and you're going to get an opportunity to grow and to learn from her brilliance as we will too. I'm looking forward to it. Come on now, Takia, bring it, my sister. Help us get our nervous systems grounded and centered once again. I'm ready to breathe with you, baby.
Hey, I
Yeah,
am ready. I'm so ready. I'm so grateful to be here. Thank you for that beautiful intro.
yes,
Um, I'm just excited to share the things that I found that have helped me the most to just show up in a way that feels most like myself and that gives me the opportunity to give and also
yeah,
receive and find that balance, you know?
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
thank you again and
yeah,
party
yeah. And
time.
thank you for having. You may hear the goats in the background. And Polaris, you can take me on.
Well, welcome to day 3 of the LMC Virtual Summit. Um, our presence is our greatest gift to the world. And a lot of times we take that for granted. We don't realize that us just showing up as we are and our most authentic self really is the truest gift we can offer. And so oftentimes you find that there's something in the way of that when we're feeling off, when we're feeling like we can't access the love that is available to us, either from ourselves or from others. We tend to then turn kind of almost into an inner enemy where we judge ourselves, right? So I really want us to come together in this moment and create the space of ease with self and approach today with just a sense of curiosity and wonderment, which sometimes we lose, as we become adults and start adulting, we start to get caught up in the kind of the work mode, right? And we gotta hustle and we gotta get it and we gotta get it and we gotta get it to pay the bills. And really life is really meant to be enjoyed. And it shouldn't just be about trying to not have a hard life, but working toward, in a playful and joyful way, having a heart life, one where our hearts are reflected back to us. And so that's why we're here today. I really believe that, when we're in our presence, we are able to hold both our humanity and our divinity, our infinity and our relativity in one place that offers the best of us to every soul that we encounter. All of our creativity is available to us in this place. We are aligned not only with the moment, but with all that is, all life. And so that's where this place of coming into harmony, where our thought, our word, and our deed are able to flow in alignment with our hearts, is really what this coherence is about. You hear this word coherence thrown around, a heart coherence. You hear alignment, which is simply agreement, where all aspects of ourselves are in agreement. So we have, and I'll get deeper into the aspects of self as we move along. Just to make it very clear, my goal is to make being in alignment and embodying our wholeness more of a practical and tangible endeavor, something that we can actually do and we know what to pull from and how to get ourselves back into alignment when we are off. And so that's why we're here. So The ultimate goal, of even that, what I just shared about us being in alignment is it's the only way that the world will transform. How do we create a world where we are actually being governed by love and not by greed or politics or all the other things, but we really are in this place of creating a world that we want to live in versus just trying to navigate conflict and accepting the status quo for our existence, but thriving and really living. And so freedom, which is, I'll actually define that in a few minutes. But freedom really, when it's experienced, it reminds us of our truth. And truth doesn't need any explanation. It doesn't need any defense. And it certainly doesn't need to be qualified. And the truth is that we are the truth. And when we are in that space of being the truth, we have no need any longer to hold anyone else captive. And we start to move out of the habit of holding ourselves captive. And so in this moment, I'd like to know how you define wholeness. How would you define wholeness? And you can post it in the chat. And just let me know, how would you say, what would you say if somebody were to ask you, what is wholeness? How would you define it? We're so unique and we have different experiences, and our experiences tend to inform our definitions of ourself, of others, of the world. And those are the three ways that we interact in this relativity, right? We have the world of the relativity, which is the earth, and we have the absolute, which is everything else, the infinite. And how we define things, it tends to also determine our relationship with it, thus our experience of it. So I'm going to share with you how I define wholeness. And wholeness to me is the truth of my eternal state of ineffable completeness and unity. And I love that word, ineffable. I mean, I love it. I love saying it. It feels good in my body. It means too great or extreme to be expressed or described by words. And that's on the sacred side. And then on just the get down side, I love the word because of the play. We're unable to be effed with, right? And that is the truth. There's nothing missing, nothing broken. You can't take anything away from my true self, my wholeness, right? And I have some other words here that describe how it's kind of it's experienced. But this is the definition that I go by because it reminds me of just an encapsulating way of expressing what something is. And sometimes we need tangible something to where words make things definitive, right? Words, that's why we don't sometimes want to use words to describe things because it limits them. So, sometimes if you walk in nature and you actually consciously don't label things, you forget a flower is a flower, you have a different experience because you are no longer containing it in some focused form from thought into form, but you're allowing it to be alive. And life is ever changing. And so we can often even benefit from having that perspective of ourselves and allowing us to not be encapsulated by certain definitions, certain words that describe us, but rather allowing us to just see our infinite nature and change our minds. And also it gives empower and empowers us to create ourselves anew. So we are the spark of the divine, and we have the all within us, and we are the universe and a mustard seed. We are significant and in some ways non, right? And we are the observer and the observed. So we are all of it. And sometimes that can be hard to handle and challenging for people. So in this moment, if you have a piece of paper and a pen, what I'd love for you to do is get those things and bring them nearby. And we're just going to do an aligning uh, breath practice right now. And this can be used. I've used this with people with breathing difficulties, with even disease that affects the breathing, and also with people who just have high anxiety. But this is something that actually brings us into equilibrium. And you may have heard it's called alternate nostril breathing. And the best way to begin would be to have your three fingers right aligned with uh, your third eye. And then you take your pinky and your thumb, and those would be the ways that the air will be shut off from one side or the other of your nose. And you touch as lightly as you can. I'm a big proponent of the minimum effective dose of what we need to do in order to get something done. By nature, that's our primitive nature, is to conserve energy. And we want to use our energy with intention. And so we have a pinky. If you touch even just the corner here of the nose with the pinky, you'll notice that the air the flow will be stopped. And then the same thing with the thumb. So 3 fingers in alignment with the third eye. And we always want to start with an exhale on the left side. So we'll exhale through the left nostril. And then we'll breathe in through that left nostril. Close off the left. Breathe out through the right. Breathe in through the right. Close off the right. And breathe out through the left. And keep going in that manner as you breathe. After you breathe out, you will then breathe in. And just imagine that there's a horseshoe of the air is going up and out, and then in, up and out, and then up and out like that. Okay. And we'll do this for about 45 to 60 seconds, and just you'll notice the difference in yourself. Continue breathing out through the nostril. In. Try to make it a fluid, so there's no actual stopping or starting of the breath. It's a continuation, as is everything in the universe, a continuation of everything else. It's in this space that we can let go of right and wrong, of black and white. We can embrace infinite possibility. Allow yourself to continue to become part of the rhythm of your breath. Don't worry about doing it perfectly. Just be in the moment. If you're breathing and the air is moving, you're doing great. Keep it going. And as you find your rhythm, find your individual flow, try to bring more ease to it, less effort. If you were just going to breathe in a way that barely moved a lit candle, how slow and effortless could that breath become? So that it just became a part of you. And you could embody this sense of ease and flow whenever you need it. Just do one more breath on either side and end with an exhale through the left. And then come back to presence with me. So just notice the sense of peace and calm and ease that you have within your center in this moment. And this is the truth of us. This is where we live. This is where we can live. So now, and from this place, draw a picture on your piece of paper of your felt sense of freedom. You could draw yourself and have yourself, that picture of you, however it shapes, to reflect to yourself how free you feel. And often, how free we feel is not something we're conscious of. So, in this moment, do you feel free to just yell, "Ah!" at the top of your lungs and just do it because you can? Do you feel free to say the truth of how you feel to anyone? Can you sit down in an elevator full of people? Can you wear whatever you choose? Right? So these little ways that we've conformed to conditioning, society, unspoken rules, also is a pressure. It's a pressure and it causes stress. And often it's unconscious. And because, like punch buggy, we have something called the reticular activating system that makes us more aware of things that we believe and that we're focused on. You may start to notice how you feel in spaces where you feel a little bit restricted, like you're being shut down or made small, even from within yourself. You're doing it to yourself to comply with unspoken rules. So just notice, curious, compassionate, no judgment. Just notice. And from this place of awareness, we can choose how we want to be. If we want to change it, we can. But it's not a hard and fast rule that we have to. Just notice. It gives us options, and choice is power. So I hope you've completed your picture of self, and just let that be. And just let that be a reflection of this moment, because it can change. Just like when we write a song or a poem, it's how we feel in that moment. It doesn't mean that's how we are all the time. And so it can change. So we often also talk about flow, and I want to bring definition to flow so that we can have this conversation be on the same page. So we create flow by fortifying our structural integrity, and that is of our mind and our body. Our mind body is innately and inseparable, and almost you can't really say there's one and then the other. They are just so entangled quantumly, physically, biologically. They are the same. They are part of each other. And we establish then emotional alignment. And emotional alignment meaning that what we say we want has no resistance emotionally. We believe that we can attain it. We truly desire it. So often we create false choices based on conditioning. Let's say we want to be a doctor because all the people in our family are doctors. That was told to us and shown to us and exemplified in our life. And we thought we believed that. But when we sit in our heart space, we might find some resistance. And then we might find the path to becoming a doctor challenging. We might find ourselves stopping and starting, might find ourselves pulled into distraction, might find ourselves sabotaging the test, the final test to become a doctor, or we might undershoot and we might become a physician's assistant because we didn't quite believe we could be the doctor, right? So these are ways that we self-sabotage. And I do that because I don't really believe in sabotage. We are always on our own team. Every aspect of ourself is always working toward our greatest good. It's just that we have different aspects of self that have different ways of accomplishing that same agenda, which is fulfillment. And I'll get into this in just a moment, but we have aspects of self that are in conflict in their method, but not their ultimate goal, right? So we have no inner enemies. We just have inner me's with different ways of achieving the same goal. So flow is a felt sense of freedom. resulting from access to our wholeness, from our sense of being one with all that is, right? Of being able to hold our humanity and our divinity at the same time. Flow, we can feel, right? We feel that. We feel when things are just aligned, and it's almost this thing that feels almost strangely free. When we use the word, I feel free, or I feel in flow, or I just feel like I'm experiencing synchronicities. Everything's just lining up, right? That happens in flow. And there's a reason that happens, because flow actually follows structure. And we have structure of that mind body made up of many things: our beliefs, our thoughts, our experiences, all of the internal network that we have, our nervous system, our trauma, all make up this structure. But it can be called the identity. It's a very short word that can express the combination of all those things that make up our internal structure. It's basically who we see ourselves as. And so from this place of flow, energy flowing in alignment with our structure, life unfolds according to that structure. And the truth is that flow is always going to follow the path of least resistance. Like if a bird's on a wire, but the wire is encased with something that causes the electricity to have to work too hard to get to the bird, then it'll keep following the line and not go into the bird, right? So it's always following the path of least resistance. And so if we're on the path to becoming a doctor, but our familiarity is feeling not worthy or good enough to be a doctor, then our life will flow in that direction, because it's the path of most ease, least resistance. The most resistance is in the way of becoming a doctor. So you might have something in your life that you imagine that you are trying to accomplish, that you feel resistance to. It doesn't mean it's not for you, just may mean that you don't have alignment or inner agreement about your ability to become it. So just a final word on structure: 2 points coming together in order and working together to do something, right? It's a structure, 2 points or more. Our body's a structure. If I'm holding a pen, that's a structure. If I write with the pen, that structure is I'm in alignment with writing, because my body is holding a pen, right? We're doing something that is in alignment with the structure of the pen, which is to write, and the body, which has the ability to do so. So just to make it more tangible, even if our structure generally has the same components, it's just that we have different ways of organizing it. So you can put wood and nails together to make different things. You could put wood and nails together and make a post. And that structure, that post, gets stuck in the ground and it doesn't move. So energy flows in alignment with that structure of a movable post. Now, you can also put that wood and nail together to make, let's say, a rocking chair. And that rocking chair has a certain structure. And when you put energy, no matter where you put the energy into the chair, it will do the same motion because of the structure it's in, right? And the same thing with us trying to be a doctor, right? No matter how much and where we put energy into us, if we are not in alignment and structured to allow ourselves to become what we seek, then we will not become that. We will stay in alignment with the not becoming, right? So the final structure and the final structure is a flowing structure, which is flow, which is what we really seek. We seek to be able to, let's say, put that wooden nail together and flow down a stream in a boat, right? No matter where you put the energy into the boat, it's still going to flow because it's the way it's created. And so this is the process for creating flow. This is as tangible as I can make it. And as I was talking about, when we're trying to transform, we say, when we see that there might be a gap or a lack of access to our wholeness, we think we have to change it. And the things that we think we need to change are this. These are the components, basic components, because there are also others: environment, epigenetic trauma that gets passed through our DNA. There are other components, but these are the primary ones. And so we have stories, we have the things that we tell ourselves are true that may or may not be so. We have behaviors, which is us acting out through the story. We have our emotions, which is what we feel, and it's energy in motion. It's the energy that's currently flowing, and we are expressing. We are expressing it. So emotions are expressions. It's that emotion being taken from our internal network and put into the world. And then we have our beliefs, which are the conclusions we draw. The core beliefs, especially, come from a myriad of sources: our environment, things we learn every day, things that we were conditioned, our family rules. And then we have kind of the deepest layer of what we can transform, which is the original event. And this original event tends to be tied to really intense emotional experiences, either positive or negative. I do that because good or bad is definitely on a spectrum of experience, and it's a judgment. Well, that's a conversation for another day. So I started to talk to you about the aspects of self. So we have three primary aspects of ourselves that hold memories. And when we talk about focus, being creative, and intention, our intention of where we put our attention is focus. And so I'm really trying to define these words, right? So we have these names for things, but we don't often know exactly what they are, what they mean, or how to use them to the height of their ability to serve us. And so we're giving some structure to some of the esoteric spiritual terms, right? So this is where we channel our creative power. Focus is created by our memories, and our memories create our structure. So in this, I created this diagram here to identify the three primary memory centers. So we have our fundamental memory center, which is our self-conscious. This is our ego. People often demonize the ego, but the ego is our personality. We would not know who we were, and others would not recognize us if we didn't have a personality, right? So it's a part of us, and it helps us make decisions. So this is, again, us not demonizing aspects of self, but embracing and loving our ego. It's just about where you put the power. Does the ego determine how you interact with the world, or is it just a part of yourself? Right? Is it neutral? Is it just part of you? Or is it doing your life for you? And that's where, I understand the judgment can come in. So then this is kind of the domain of the mind. And then another aspect is our unconscious or subconscious, which you've probably heard talked about a lot. You've heard of subconscious release. And I honestly, the subconscious is a very primitive aspect of ourselves that's designed solely to protect us. Its job literally is to keep us safe. And so in conflict with our ego, and our personality, our self-conscious, it desires new experience. So we have this aspect of self that desires new things and creating and doing new things and having things that we didn't have when we were younger, or becoming something new. And then we have this aspect of self that wants everything in homeostasis, everything to stay. I also call that homeostay as is, homeostasis. So everything to stay as it is, because that's safe. Whatever you've experienced previously is safe. And so you can continue to experience more of that. And if as soon as you try to do something new, then let's say you were in a family that no one was a doctor. It can be for someone who hasn't seen that or experienced being in that vibe of doctorism, or in that family, or had that knowing of the possibilities of your life, to be at the height of something that is revered in your family, like being a doctor. It could be a pain point for you, And thus, a flood of resistance comes up when you think about becoming a doctor. And then you start to encounter things that feel like you shouldn't do it, or it makes it hard. And so these two aspects of ourselves are in constant conflict. And it's not because they are not wanting you to, they want you to be safe and healthy and fulfilled. It's just that the survival mechanism of the unconscious or the subconscious is that staying the same is better for that. And so deep work is not really done best here. In order to really do what we call transformation, we need to rise up, because that subconscious aspect of ourselves is always being grown. We actually add more and more to it every day. Whenever we have experiences, we log it in our subconscious and we create what's safe and what's not. And so to try to do deep work there, it's like 2 steps forward, 1 step back. You might make some progress, you might get close to becoming the doctor, but eventually you'll get to that place where either you'll get it and it'll all fall apart, or you'll find yourself almost getting there and then going backwards, almost getting there, and that's oscillating, right? That's that rocking chair. And so deep work is best done where the original events can be actually recreated in a way that is sourced from the infinite field of information. So Carl Jung called it the infinite field. Some, if you have a spiritual background, you might call it spirit. Either way, I work with people who are devout Christians, who are Muslim, who are atheist, and it doesn't matter. You can also just call it energy. And if you just believe that there's something larger that connects us all, that's actually backed by science. It is measured. They can measure the energy of thoughts outside of your head. They can measure the fact that those thoughts are creative, right? So there are people who win the Nobel Prize who live in Japan and who live in Europe, and they come up with the same exact idea. How does that happen? Because we're pulling from the same source. So when we rise up, we can actually change the information and pass it down through our subconscious and into our self-conscious. So the subconscious or unconscious is also the domain of the body. So it can be beneficial to release energy from the body. And because if you don't, then it can become hardened and turn into things like dis-ease. We already feel the hardened, tension of the psychological tension becoming physiological tension in what we call knots. We call the knots in our neck and our back. That is stress or anxiety or thoughts or unexpressed emotion that didn't get right. Those emotions we talked about not getting expressed, then emotion that's meant to flow, that's stagnant, becomes like that post, becomes stuck in our body. And so this is why this work that we're doing today, I believe, is so important. This is how we move the needle. This is how we create true lasting change. So the 3 primary things that hinder our access to our freedom. We have inner conflict, and we could pare that down to even just the conflict between our self-conscious and unconscious selves. And it's that part of us that once knew, and that part of us that's afraid, and that part of us that fears losing something or someone. And fear is also neutral. People often demonize fear, but fear is a glowing. Think of it as an arrow pointing you exactly where you need to go or where you need to grow. It's an indicator, and we'll never get rid of it. It's actually an essential part of ascension and growth. So I hope that this is landing for you, and perhaps helping you to bring some things that you've heard of into kind of a more focused and accessible way of perceiving our interaction with ourselves. So this is how. Okay. The second thing, stagnant energy. So these are the 3 primary obstacles to our freedom, right? So inner conflict, primary. Stagnant energy literally will inhibit us from focusing. When we have unexpressed anger, or we even have sometimes information that we've been taking in. So we've been studying and studying and studying and getting certification after certification, and we have lots of information that hasn't been digested. It can also be a form of resistance and be stagnant energy in the way of us actually doing the thing. So often we need a little decompression time to allow ourselves to digest the information. And as we need a way also to express the energy that's in our bodies. And then finally, one of the ways I find most people create obstacles to their freedom, and I say that in that way because it gives us the power. If we place the obstacle there, we can also remove it, right? Versus blaming. It's not, oh, I did that to myself. It's, oh, I put that there to keep myself safe. And now, if I purposely and intentionally do things to allow my subconscious, unconscious mind to experience the thing, it starts to become familiar and thus safe. So, this is how we get out of the quandary of not being able to do things that are unfamiliar because they're not safe. This is how we become more aligned. We have experiences that we survive that get logged in our subconscious that allow us to feel more and more familiar with the experience and then become it. Because we can only do a thing that we have already become internally. Because everything out there is simply a reflection of what's in here. So the third way is that we give away our power. A lot of times we make our achievements or our success or our end result of whatever that is, relationships, based on things outside of ourselves, other people, circumstances, our situation, money. We give our power to things outside of ourselves rather than remembering that we hold both this divinity and this amazing humanity, right? So, and let's not demonize our humanity. Let's embrace and love all aspects, right? A lot of times I hear people say, oh, I'm only human. Well, how about you are wonderfully made human? Because it's a powerful thing to have been given form to do expression and have focused experience here where you can have impact on the universe as part of the universe and also as a moving piece within the universe, right? The drop of the ocean as well as the entire ocean, right? That is us. So giving away our power, it distracts us from our end result or the thing that our heart truly desires. Our heart is where we get the small still voice. It's where we can always return to feel and the truth. Our body will never lie to us. Our mind can flip-flop because depending on the information we give it, it can have a different perception. Our heart and our bodies will always tell you the truth. And this is why, we can call this place home, even though we are actually bigger than our bodies. I don't believe that our body is within it, that our soul, our spirit is within the body. I believe that, that we are actually a part of the whole, right? So our body is simply a vessel, right? Within the larger energetic field. And so we can channel and we also are it. I know that it can be, that's probably the most esoteric thing that I'll say to you today and leave it there because it's just true. It's just true. So giving away our power, when we look outside of ourselves for answers, it doesn't allow us to have choice because we're always waiting on the other thing to change before we can have what we desire. And our mouth is our mouthpiece for our heart. So it is necessary for us to allow this alignment so that our heart can speak, right? So if I sat here and I thought about every single thing that I was about to say and I needed to qualify everything before I said it, I would probably not ever say anything, right? Or I would constantly be editing, self-editing, and you would not feel me. And the world needs to feel us. Yes, we want to be seen. Yes, we want to be heard as humans. We want and need this. to feel like we belong and are safe, which is our two primary fears: not belonging, and not being safe, like being humiliated, being rejected. All those things can fit in those two primary categories of fear. And so we want to be felt. When we say, we want to feel like we're being received or truly heard. We say, do you feel me? Do you get me? Do you understand me? Do you see where I'm coming from? Like, we want someone to be able to be in us and feel us. And so that is also what the world needs from us. And the only way that we can do this is if we're in alignment, if we're in internal agreement. And then we can move powerfully and we can create magic. So part of this process is really believing and embracing that you are truly wonderfully made, that you are ineffable, that there is nothing missing, nothing broken. Really being able to lean into this truth is a game changer. And then the other thing in this power conversation that has freed me and can also free people pleasers, people who have those tendencies to want to have the approval of others and to take better care of others than ourselves, which again, these are superpowers, which I don't have time today to get into why it's a superpower, because it's a whole another thing. But just know that all the ways that you're that way because it's needed in the world. So it's just about how we organize our structure and then utilize that to fulfill our purpose. Purpose is to create, and our calling is how that creation manifests, right? Okay. So we have these things called space invaders, right? We have these feelings of being responsible for other people, how they feel. We have this undigested information. We have guilt. We have shame, all these things that get in our way. So what are your space invaders? Just make a note for yourself, even on the flip side of the picture that you drew of yourself, of how free you feel. And just make a note of the things that are in the way. What's keeping you from this felt sense of freedom? When you have moments of inspiration, do you then shut it down and don't go immediately and do the thing that you felt inspired to do, but rather then start to get in your head and start to dissect it and decide that you need 10 certifications before you can do it? Because you're not alone. Everyone does it until they get aligned and rise up and decide that they are going to be the primary creator of their life, co-creating a life, right? Money patterns, fear of failure, fear of success. What's in your way? What is keeping you? Because it's always accessible. We always have the ability to touch and feel love. We have the ability to be in power. So if you don't feel those things, there's some kind of resistance or fear that's in the way. So just make those notes for yourself. So just touch on this briefly. So I'll tell you a story about myself. So this represents our active experience, right? So we have a main personality, and then we also have part-time personalities. We're different with our mama than we are with our bestie, than we are with, the clerk behind the counter at the store. It's just a way that we shift a little bit based on the level of intimacy we feel, right? Or the experience we've had with people who look like them, right? That's another deep conversation. But just know that we have part-time personalities that will actually come to our defense in a moment where we are experiencing something new and our subconscious is afraid that we're going to get injured. It's afraid actually we're going to die, or experience the thing that we most think is going to kill us, like rejection, or humiliation, right? Or failure. And so for me, I'll share with you one of the things that I kept encountering in relationship is that I would um, be fine being able to ask someone out if they were interested first, and then I would, either be interested more because they were interested, or I would wait for them to let me know they were interested so that it was okay for me to be interested, right? Because it's just fear of rejection. It's this pain thing. And I could always be interested first in someone who I wasn't that interested in, right? If I wanted someone but not that much, it wasn't like a heart-centered, felt energetic yes, then it would be really easy just to ask them out. So when I encounter someone that, and I'm very sensitive to energy. So when I meet someone that I really like and I vibrate inside. Um, I met someone like that some years ago, and I tried to ask them out, and not only I kept encountering this resistance that wouldn't allow me move forward. But I was like, I can do this. Like, I'm going to push through it. I'm just going to, and I rallied myself and I tried to push through and just say, hey, do you want to go? And I lost time. I literally got taken out of space and time, pulled out. I ended up on the other side of the room. I have no idea how I got there. My subconscious would not allow me to ask someone out that I was actually heartfully drawn to. It's powerful. When I tell you that some of these traumas and these part-time personalities that are here to protect us are protectors. They are a force of nature, and they will keep us from getting the thing that we truly desire. For me, I want to be in partnership and share all this love that I have flowing from my heart space. I love doting on someone. So I desire that, and I desired that so deeply that also that when you desire something from here, it's a vulnerable place, right? It leaves you feeling open to all of those things that we don't want to feel, like rejection. So it wasn't until I actually understood how intrusions happen when you are in that moment when you are ready to do the thing, and you try to push through this fear that you feel, but it's so deep, it's such a deep trauma that you cannot, it will not allow you to do it. And it wasn't until I actually did some work called parts work, where I integrated all aspects of myself and got everyone on the same team, so that not only was our ultimate end result and our agenda the same, but also our method was the same, right? I got myself into alignment, and now I can, with ease, feel this vibratory thing. I just did it the other day. It was amazing. Um, got the digits, by the way. So, so this is a very real thing. So if you're finding yourself stuck and not able to get to a thing, and an end result that your heart truly desires, it's likely that the experience that you've had with something similar is disallowing it on a unconscious or a subconscious level. And so there is a way to get to those things. And today I'm going to give you some tools to begin that process. Behavior is a great indicator. And because a lot of times when we work this esoterically and this kind of, we talk like woo woo, we talk about things that are emotional and intangible, we need ways to measure and monitor and adjust. And I'm a firm believer in that, in having both. Yes, I'm a spiritual being. And if you know me, I love woo woo. I am all about the woo. I'm also about the strategy, the grounded strategy, and fusing them together so we can actually walk a path to get to our end result. So um, so there's always an action to take when we're afraid. So when we feel afraid to do something, let's say we feel frustrated, it's because we're actually afraid to do the action that would actually resolve the issue. We end up holding our friends and waiting for someone to try to co-sign what we don't want to do is the right thing, right? So we're trying to get someone to on our side so we can convince ourselves that we don't have to take the action, right? So if you find yourself polling, this is why. Um, so um, just so there's always an action to take, and so therefore behavior on that list of in the anatomy of transformation is a great indicator, right? There's no aspect of how we are in our structure that's bad. It's a great indicator. If you know what to look for, you can use it as a tool. So our behavior, so now my ability to take an action that I couldn't previously take lets me know that I've released that trauma. Because how else are you going to measure it? Like, I didn't go somewhere and get the energy of my thoughts measured or the energy of my emotion measured. And there's no, MRI that can see the parts of myself that are not in agreement. But when I do the work and then I'm able to take the action that I couldn't previously take, I know. It's proof. All right. All right, I'm going to move a little more quickly here because I can go on tangents for days. But this right here is this is the quantum kinetic somatics process, and this is what I use to help people do this process to rise up. And so we use witnessing of a community witnessing, which is powerful. Anything we look at changes, and so if we have many eyes looking at the thing, we change it more quickly. We need accountability sometimes, especially if we've been on a pattern, a path for a really long time. We need a way to integrate what it is we're learning, not just to learn it and know it in our head and understand it, but then to integrate, assimilate, and then be able to take action. We need a strategy. We need a map to follow, right? We need clarity, and we need the vision to be mapped. So yes, we need we need a plan, right? That's the easiest way to say it. We need a plan. And knowing that all plans are always going to change, we go into it with this understanding that there's no plan that is concrete, because we only work with the next right action, right? The next right step. So we have headlights. We work to the end, to what we can see at the edge of the headlights. And then as we move forward, we can see further, right? So that's how we move. And because as we evolve, so does our circumstances and our situation, and sometimes our vision for ourselves grows. So we always want to leave space for grace, and we always want to leave space for growth and expansion of that vision. And there are practical steps for conscious creation. So right here, this is how we create momentum. Right, momentum is a very real thing too, and sometimes you can find yourself in it and don't know how you got there. But then, how do you recreate it? There's a formula. Universe works on math. I'll give you formulas. And then daily practice. This is how remember how I said that we're consciously adding to our subconscious fears and bank of what is deemed safe, therefore what we can actually accomplish and achieve and move on. So daily practice helps us to stay aligned. And that way, the things that come in, we let go of, versus just racking up more and more resistance to things that we're trying to create. And then finally, we have our Vision Heart Power Center. This is about creating true choices. And earlier, I referenced our ability and our tendency to actually create choices that aren't truly in alignment with our heart. They're based on fear of the past. We only create from two places. We create either from the pain of our past, or we create from our intuition. That's it. One of those two things. If you create from the pain of your past, you get more of what you've already experienced. You create from your intuition, it's infinite. You create what you truly desire in your heart. And that's how we want to move. This is how we create something new, create a life that we truly love. And this is how we create impact, right? This is how we elevate the world, is by being in alignment with ourselves and our true authentic representation and presentation in the world, being present. This is how we give our gifts. We uplevel our mindset to feed the mind body, right? To keep us in alignment, right? Because, it can be really easy to get pulled into distraction or pulled down into mediocrity, because most people are in that homeostasis as is, right? They're in homeostasis. They're riding the mediocrity wave, and they're not looking to ascend or go beyond their comfort zone, or they're being pulled down into this place of being stuck. And they can't, and they can't quite see. But the beautiful thing is that even in a dark room, all you need is a crack of light. You open the door a little teeny bit. You ever been in a dark room and then someone just cracks the door and you have to close your eyes, right? Because it's a light is so powerful, exponentially so. And small things have exponential impact, right? And so what I found to be true for most people is that when we do strategically chosen things, purposely, intentionally chosen things, even if they're small, if we do them consistently, Small meaning we judge them as small, or they don't look big in the world. I promise you that they have an inverse representation in the world of spirit, and therefore their impact even in the world is greater. It's the smallest things that have the greatest impact. Spudweb. Spudweb. And then also, look up that reference. That's an old reference. But also, what are the things that mean the most to us truly? It's connection. It's the things we can't really touch. It's the things that seem small, but later we realize in hindsight we're actually the biggest impactful components of that situation. If one small butterfly wing on an ocean creating tsunamis, like, it's the small things that make the difference. So a lot of times we wait to take action because we're trying to make a grand gesture. We're trying to create this grand plan. Create a plan, and then every day consistently take small action toward it, that you draw your intuition to actually hone in on the right next step. And you'll get there faster with more ease and flow. So we rise up. So you see over here, this is that equation, that strategic plan of having structural integrity plus emotional alignment plus the aligned action we take creates flow. And this is how we ascend. And then you see I3, this is the intention, the integrity of how we're moving. We can always check in, and this is why we want to be in community. This is how we're reflections of each other. So this is kind of the flow formula depicted, and the primary components of how we stay in flow is really being in our innate peace, is having access to our creative power, and we have an unconditional love for self. And we can look at this from the perspective of the 3 C's, having curiosity, compassion, and courage, right? So curiosity is I wonder how it is, versus I'm digging to try to find all the dark places and all my dark night of the soul, and I'm trying to find all my shadows and dig them up because I need to be perfect, versus I have this thing that my heart has told me it desires. I know I got this download from the divine. This is the thing the end result that I truly desire, and I want to become in alignment with it. So I'm curious about how I could become more in alignment. I'm curious as to what could shift to help me become more effortlessly in flow with it, right? It's a different energy. So this is the approach. It's from a harmonic aspect and perspective. We come from a place of compassion. I see your pain and I desire to help. I see this pain of not having the thing we desire. I see this resistance, this fear, as keeping us stuck. And so I desire to help myself, being on my own team. I want to be my best friend. The same compassion that we give others, we must turn internally, right? And then finally, courage is knowing that fear will never disappear. Fear is simply, as I said, an arrow where to grow and go, right? So we want to have the ability to do something even though we're afraid. And the way we do that is by that daily practice of small steps toward, and also the experience of the thing that we're becoming. We have the internal representation of who we're becoming that becomes our end result, right? Okay. And, a lot of times you'll see people, magic has occurred. They think, all of a sudden they arrive, but it was a series of this kind of cyclical revisiting and continuation on this spectrum of, of ascension, right? Where there's nothing linear about us. We are ever expansive. So there's nothing linear. And so therefore, you're always right on time. You're always right where you need to be. And the more you can trust that and actually put that into action, not just when it's easy, but all the time, the more we bring all of our knowing into practice, the more ease and flow that we create with. All right, so we're coming down for a landing here because I want to get us into some movement. So this is just another way of showing you what I've just said, which is cultivating a felt sense of wholeness, and the ways that we do that: self-love, cultivating our natural state, which is peace, accepting our creative power. And the three primary ways that we clear out those space invaders that we talked about and that you wrote down on the back of your picture that you drew of your felt sense of wholeness and freedom are sound, movement, and breath. So music, when you hear music, it changes you. It actually changes the vibration of your cells. When I first came into my energetic gifts and I was having to actually hone them, I would hear thumping and my body would shake. It took quite a while to actually to rein myself in to actually control my own vibration when I was around really deep thumping, especially drums. My body loves drums. So it would actually just start vibrating in alignment and in frequency with the drum. So get yourself in an environment where you can be healed by sound, whether that's bowls or it's an energy of music that really it resonates with you. And movement, dancing, is a fantastic way. You saw Sanchel on day one of the summit. I mean, moving in a way that's structured like that can be an entry point and also a practice, as sacred practice. And then there's also another aspect of movement, which is just intuitive. And I want us to lean into that today, where we're just tuning into how we feel and getting a sense. If we are just truly quiet and present with ourselves, movement is life. So we are actually always moving. There's no aspect of us that is completely still. And if you really tune in, and I will do that in this moment with you, I can sense in and I can sense my body. This is what my body wants to be doing. Because this is letting go of whatever emotion is stored in my nervous system. And it wants to do this. And I can feel myself getting freer and lighter in my body the more I allow it. So I can turn that on and off. And what I offer people is a way to do it with sound and breath, because not everyone is astute at tuning into their own energy to that level yet, but it's actually possible, right? I am you, you are me. There's nothing I can do that you can't, right? We all have gifts. So like everyone can learn how to play basketball, but perhaps not everyone's going to be Michael Jordan, right? But he worked hard to get even his skills. But you know what I'm saying? Like you can still play basketball. So you can tap in and do that thing. I think this is like one of my innate gifts, is to be really kinesthetically aware, know where I am in the world and in an environment at all times, and have great balance. Like this is just who I am. And I'm sure that you have some amazing creative skill that I don't have as much access to it because I haven't cultivated and honed in on it. So, there are no gurus. You are in yourself. And this is one of the things I was sharing earlier that has helped people, to really give people their own power back. Notice when you are not seeing someone as powerful, because when you're saying someone is in need of being fixed, or that you feel this overwhelming sense of needing to help or fix or change their situation, it's not the same as being compassionate. It is seeing them as a victim. It is disempowering to not see them as a powerful creator. And it's a different energy to come to them honoring their innate wisdom and offering your gifts than to see them as someone who needs to be fixed. And let's just turn the mirror on ourselves with that. Let's honor our innate wisdom and not see ourselves as someone who needs to be fixed, but rather, how can I offer my presence to heal the body and to let go of what is in the way of what no longer serves this current me, or this current in me? What is in the way of your current, the flow of your current? Okay. All right. So I'm just going to show this for a moment. This is self-love. So self-love, again, can be one of those things that we talk about but don't really understand how to get more of. And I break it down very simply into trusting, knowing, and caring for self. And there are aspects of those things and practices that we can do to fortify them. But I just want you to know that it's a real thing. It's not just, saying I love myself, which actually is a great practice to help fortify. However, there is a way that we can consciously walk a path into self-love. And and have greater access to the love that is already available for us. So I just want you to know this to be true. And so here is the approach that I take with people, and I'm taking with us today, is awareness. So a lot of things that I've shared today, maybe you weren't aware of before, and we're bringing clarity, and then we're bringing empowered expression, and we're always going to be asking questions out of curiosity. So we want to be aware of what is, we want to get clarity about what's true, and then we want to have an empowered expression so that we can choose how to move next. And this ignites momentum. So over here on the right, you'll see the E equals MC3. And so there are three primary aspects of our magic. We have an identity, who we're becoming. We have a desired reality. This is the true choice of our heart. It's what we really, really want, not what we told we want or what we think we want, but we really, really want. And then we have aligned action. And this is what the next step is that's going to have the greatest impact. And it doesn't have to make sense to your mind. It doesn't have to make sense in your head. Because a lot of times, because in world of spirit, we actually get more symbols and feelings than we do actual. It's never literal, really. You might get a sense of knowing. You might get an instruction. I've been given instructions. One time, I'll tell you a quick story. I was had parked. I lived in Pennsylvania, and I parked at the top of a cul-de-sac at my grandmom's house, and was coming out to the car. So I was approaching the car on the driver's side. I got to the car, and I got this just. It didn't have a like a tone or anything, but I got this knowing that I was to go around the other side of the car on the passenger side and look under the rear wheel well. Now, have you ever done that? Is that something you do in a general? But no, I don't either. First time I ever did it. Last time I ever did it. I just knew I needed to do that. I walked around the other side of the car. I couldn't see anything. I literally had to bend over and look up under the rear wheel well, and I saw this huge chunk of concrete wedged underneath the well. I had to wedge it out like it was this big. It weighed at least, I'd say 7, 8 pounds, 10 pounds maybe. And I wedged it out and I put it, aside. But if I had started the car and tried to go, I may have been injured. The car might have been totaled. Who knows? But it didn't happen because I was so in alignment and in tune with my intuition. I just knew that's what I was to do. And this is our magic. This is how we can live every day. Miracles are not something that happen once in a while. They're life. And so I'm just encouraging us to lean in and deepen our sense of wholeness so that we can have this be our creative experience. Okay. Boop. All right. So these are the space creators. I touched on these just a moment ago: sound, movement, and breath. And we're going to get into that in literally just a moment. I'm going to give you some nuggets, some tools here. So when we find ourselves, I didn't want to give you all this and just say, oh, these are things I do with people. I also wanted to give you some very grounded ways of getting yourself out of places of disempowerment. So, where we put the power is always going to be where our energy will flow. And it's always going to determine our end result. So if you put the power outside of yourself in something like money, or in certain circumstances having to be perfect, or in one person having to be involved in order to get the thing done, then you'll always be feeling like a victim, feeling frustrated because you're not taking an action that either you need to step up into a new role. And so what you can do is ask yourself this question: what would the person I am becoming do right now? I got chills. So in order to do that, you have to have done the work and decided who you're becoming. But if you have that in place, then you ask that question and then you take action from that energy. And then you're not going to be taking it from your conditioning or your past, but from this place of empowerment and growth and becoming. So I want you to have a tool. And so I always ask, my clients, are you 6G? This is how you do a power check for yourself. Are you in alignment with grace? Are you leaving room for grace? Or are you trying to be in such control that you're trying to make the thing happen all by yourself and not using community, not leaving space for grace, right? Not leaving space for divine intervention. keeping things so tight and compact and perfect can often just not leave room for magic to happen. So this space that we leave is for listening. It's not, filling our calendars to the tilt. It's leaving space. The second is generosity. Where you can look at where you're withholding. Am I withholding love from myself? Am I withholding love from another? Am I coming from scarcity? Am I afraid of not having? Or am I trying to use my energy to manipulate the circumstances versus moving from this place of heartful intuition and knowing of my abundance, right? We all have these moments where we know we're abundant, but then when things get to the wire, we tend to revert back to our old patterns, which is totally normal and understandable. But it's in these moments that we need to make the shift and say, who am I becoming? And what would I do now? Right? And this is how we become to be who we want to be, to have the thing we want to have. Okay, generosity. Growth. Am I being open to lessons and learning, right? So often we have this kind of inverse relationship with humility. It's actually really arrogant not to think you have the power to create, to not think you have the power of the divine in you. It's like arrogant to think that you have to do it yourself. So I'm inviting you to consider a shift in perspective. Maybe consider that knowing that you are powerful and that you are limitless is actually part of being having humility, being humble. Right? Nothing's linear. The next is gratitude. Taking for granted what we currently have, wishing it away, wishing today away to get to a day that hasn't come yet. A lot of times, we're trying to just get through something, but in this moment, this is life. This is life right now. And so we often have this horizon happiness that we're living for. And so bringing ourselves back to the now and finding the gold in today. What do I have now that I am actually grateful for? Because you can have both. And this is where people get confused sometimes, is that you think that if I'm satisfied with what I have, I can't also want more. But you absolutely can. So get used to both and, because you are both and. We can always hold both and. I recommend and invite you to hold both and. All right, so we have this gratitude where I can absolutely be completely satisfied with what I have now, and I am life, so I can continue to want and desire and create more. Both can be possible at the same time. Grounded. Am I resonant with the earth? Am I in this sense of, I like to, when I feel grounded, what I feel is grounded in flight. Like I feel like I'm in alignment with the earth, like I am this creative essence, and I'm also a body moving with power. Like I am this pulsation. I am the impulse of the universe, and I am also this grounded vessel walking the earth, right? So it's this sense that I have that and there are movements that you can actually do that fortify and sense into this sense of power in yourself. And even just standing with your hands above your head in victory, in this moment, in victory, claiming it with your body first can actually bring you a sense of power and can shift you into a place of curiosity and wonderment about what's possible versus, feeling like you're stuck in something that is insurmountable. Okay, and then we have greatness, right? So this is this acceptance and the acknowledgement and the application of your greatness. I'm going to leave it there because that's just the truth. You are great. And so the more you can remind yourself in ways that the easiest way I find is to have a list of successes. If you write down when you have successes in those moments when you're high on your success, write it down and then have it somewhere where you can reference it and remind yourself. Because in the moments when we're low, we tend not to remember our successes. We only remember our failures, and then it becomes a spiral downward. So lean into success by having a record it, so that you can reference it when you need it. All right. So these are the components of creation. There is always an identity, as I shared earlier. There's always a current reality, what you're currently experiencing, which we acknowledge. Just because we have dreams, we don't deny what we're currently experiencing. We actually see it very clearly, and we allow the emotions that we have about it to be real and feel them. And then we can also shift then into a state of feeling what we want to actually experience as an end result. Then there's also always an action to take. These are the four primary components of creation or manifestation, as if you want to call it that. It's fine too. All right, cornerstones of alignment. So body rhythms. You can look into body rhythms more deeply, but I'll just touch on them here. And we're gonna move in just like 30 seconds here. I'm gonna finish up. We've got like 2 slides left here, and we're gonna move into some body movement. So joint articulation, I'm gonna actually do with you today. Bilateral or contralateral coordination. Walking is an example of that. It just means coordinating your body from side to side, right? So when we become stagnant, we start to lose kind of access to certain patterns within our body. If you look to the right here, we have 7 primary movement patterns. Some people believe we have 12. I believe they can be all distilled down and they fall under the umbrella of these 7. But doing these patterns can also help us become more aligned. Doing the natural patterns of our kinesthetic chain or our physiological self, and our biological self, we can actually help ourselves move into alignment. It's a deep topic, but you just know that moving helps, right? And moving in patterns that we're designed to move in helps. Pelvic floor integrity, that actually has a lot to do with organ health, with breath, with the fortification of your core, just helping you to feel more structurally integral, right? That's the key here, right? Structural integrity plus aligned emotional alignment plus aligned action is what we're seeking. We also have to have physical alignment and also physical integrity. Okay. And then breath quality, understanding, when you're not having full breath that is oxygenating your body, when it's affecting your nervous system, right? When we have experiences, certain experiences will actually affect our nervous system in a way that our breath becomes shallow and perhaps even quickened, that sends us into a stressful state, which sends off a cascade of hormones, et cetera, that leads us into fight or flight. And when we get into those states, it becomes a spiral again, right? Inertia is a real thing. Whatever is in motion will continue in motion unless acted upon by a different force. And so it's easier to keep something in momentum than to stop it and reverse it. So this is why a daily practice is best for us to help keep us moving in the direction that we desire to go. And then down here, we'll train our nervous system. There are many ways here listed. Courageous action, having a vision that you can see every day, or that you revisit even internally every day, visualization, breath work, and community, right? Relationships. Just can't even express how important relationships are, because we live in a relative world. So we have 3 primary ways that we do this work of transformation, and in reference to our relationship with ourselves, we're either shifting that, or we're changing our relationship with other people, or we're changing our relationship with the world. Those are the 3 things that we're transforming relationships with to transform, and when we transform. And then finally, alignment with our heart, getting on your own team. Now we're going to lean into that today in the movement. This is the fundamental. If you were looking for a place to begin, I believe that your foundation is your feet. Foundation of your body is your feet. Foundation of your spirit is your heart space, that coherence. And the complexes of your center of gravity, your mid-body core, that's from sternum to hip flexors, 360. Integrity is super important. It houses your organs and also is where your breath is most felt and controlled from. And then your hands. Grip strength has a direct correlation to longevity. So if you're finding that you can't carry heavy things, you can get one of those grippers and start working it out. 25 reps a day even will increase your grip strength over a course of just a few weeks. So the body's very adaptable and wants to be what you want it to be. So it wants to serve you. All right. So I'm going to stop here and we're going to lean into some movement now. I'm very excited. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I'm going to return here. So if you haven't already cleared a space, oh yes. So if you haven't already cleared a space in your space to move, we're going to do that now. And I'm going to shift my camera so that you can see me better. All right. So I'm not going to add music because I want you to be internal with yourself. We're going to do this movement now. So the first thing we're going to do is to begin to create synovial fluid. So we're just going to make circles with our wrists. Synovial fluid helps to lubricate our joints. If you're ever feeling stiff or like feeling stuck in your body, just starting even to move small things like your wrists can really start to help. Then move into the elbows. We're just actually doing joint articulation to release our internal lubrication system, right? And then we can start to move our shoulders. And just allow the articulation of the shoulder with the body, and then you can reverse it. And we'll do one at a time, getting big ranges of motion. If you swim, you'll feel all the musculature in your back all the way down your posterior chain into your feet beginning to move. And we're going to go backwards and notice that you engage more of the front body, which opens up the heart space so we can do more deep listening more effortlessly. Good. We'll switch to the other arm. You can go either direction first. The order doesn't matter as long as it's done. Moving. And then we're going to switch to front. Good. So we're going to move to the head now. We're just going to tuck the chin. And we're breathing with this movement, exhaling, inhaling, gentle exhale. Keeping your lips gently together as you move. Good. Now we're going to go ear to shoulder. We'll go here, ear to shoulder. Try to consciously relax the shoulders and allow the ear to move toward the shoulders versus the shoulder to the ear. Good. And then we're going to turn the head. And just notice if you have any asymmetry. Asymmetry is the number one indicator to imbalance and can lead to injury. So if you can't turn to the same degree to one side as the other, just notice that as something that's good to return to. Now we're going to circle. We can return to it. I like to do half circles. If full circles feel good to you, then you go for it. But I prefer, my body likes half circles. We're just releasing tension in the neck. Allow your breathing to support the movement. Good. Good. Now we're going to move the shoulders. So we're going to get into a little twist. We're going to move the shoulders as we twine. It also loosens the spine. So that is part of our nervous system, right? And then we're going to go the other way. You can bend your knees softly and just allow your body just to move how it feels best to do when you twine. Then we're going to move our rib cage. So we're going to circle our rib cage around our hips. And just notice if you have any stuck places. If you do, places that feel stuck or less accessible, you allow yourself to do this movement. I'm going to reverse now. Let the ribs take their natural course and circle the hips. The rib cage is central to our alignment physically and our chakra alignment thusly. Good. Then we're going to move to the hips. First, we're going to do internal hip rotation. So it's just internal hip. So you're not actually moving the body, but you're using the musculature attached to the hips, so the glutes, especially, to help promote more circulation. And then you're going to reverse. Excellent, excellent. Good. Now big circles. We're moving the body globally now, moving the hips around the feet. Circles are universally our preference. They're unifying. They symbolize wholeness, and circles move us in a way that creates balance and also momentum. The centripetal force of our lives, of our bodies. Good. Now we're going to do individual hips. So we're going to go open hip and bring the hip back. So we get all aspects of the hip. Your internal core temperature should be rising, and that's natural. Keep going. Keep going. Good. Then we're going to switch. Keep going. Just allow yourself to feel into the movement. Don't just do it, but notice how it's being done. What am I using to lift my leg? Am I actually feeling the muscles in my hip do the work? Can I sense the muscles that should be doing the work? A lot of times we are compensating, just like we compensate emotionally. We have to find the muscle that's the prime mover that does the work with the least amount of effort. Now we're going to go down to the ankle. We're going to do circles with the ankle. A lot of times we step off a curb, you might twist your ankle because you've lost the mobility, the ability to actually have your ankle circle your forefoot and reverse. What tends to happen a lot of times is that we have less big toe extension, and this position becomes uncomfortable. And when things are uncomfortable, we avoid them. So we stop using the range of motion. And then whatever range of motion, switch feet, doesn't get accomplished at your foundation, it puts more pressure and stress on the joints upstream. So when you lose ankle mobility, you can change direction. Then you also put pressure on your knees and your hips and your back. Right? So now we're going to do a calf stretch. If you have a wall, you can put your hands on a wall, and you're going to press the heel down into the floor. You want both feet aligned, facing the same direction, and you're going to press consciously down into the heel to feel lengthening in the calf. And then what you'll do from this position is push your hips side to side to change the angle of the stretch. Good. And switch. Pressing the calf down, breathing. A lot of times when we wear high heels or we don't even know, so we have unconscious tightness, which is related to that unconscious resistance in our mental bodies that gets translated into our physical self. We have this tightness that we didn't even know was there, right? You ever gone to get a massage and I didn't even know that hurt. Oh, I didn't even know that was tight, because the body is the realm of the unconscious. And so we have these unprocessed traumas, these undigested information that gets lodged in the body. Good. Now we're going to do something that you may not have done before, which is to turn the foot over, and we're going to stretch the anterior tibialis. So that's the only shin muscle that you have is the muscle that runs along the outside of your shin. And you're going to turn your foot over so that the top of your foot is on the floor. And you may even cramp. On the other side of the cramp is a transform pattern. So if it cramps, try to breathe through it. If it's so bad that you can't manage, if it's so uncomfortable that you can't manage, then ease off of it and then return to it. Just do a little at a time, and the body will eventually adapt. If you're able to just breathe because it's a little uncomfortable but not too bad, then stay with it. And then you're just going to gently rock your foot over side to side. So we're just addressing our feet because they are the foundation of our structure physically. And this will allow us to be able to move more freely in the world and more pain-free with more ease, right? Because when we're in pain, we don't want to wait till we're in pain to do something about it. If we can prevent that from happening by creating space in our ankles so they can move how they're designed. Good. Okay. So now that we've created space, we've lubricated a bit, we're just going to do some springy feet. So we're just going to go up onto the ball of the feet and notice whether or not your big toe wants to actually bend. Can you actually let your foot go all the way up onto the ball of your foot so that all aspects of the ball of each foot touches the ground? Pinky toe to big toe, and then down. So you didn't switch, just like what's that movie where they they dance like that? I don't know, but if you just allow yourself to just be present with your feet and consciously switch, making full contact across the ball of the foot, you'll notice there's a spring in our feet. Our feet are meant to be rigid and also springy. And then as you feel you're able to access the ball of the foot at the height, the same height on both sides, we can then find ourselves using our rigid levers and our springs in our feet again. When we go up steps, a lot of times we clunk up the steps instead of pushing off. So my tip today would be to start to actually use the spring in your feet when you're going up steps on purpose. So when you leave that step, push off. Push off. Your calf is the heart of your lower body, and it will actually increase your circulation and help keep this space that we created today. Okay, so now we're going to go down onto the ground, and we're going to get on all fours. So what we're going to do right now is just some segmental control. A lot of times when you have tightness in your back, it's because you only have global control, but you don't have segmental control. We have muscles inside of our upper back. We're going to tuck our tailbone and tuck our head. And then we're going to start to only bring the tailbone up. So I'm going to lift my tailbone and let segmentally my body start to slowly bring my head up. The head is the last thing to come. Then we'll tuck the chin, stay in this position. You might find it challenging. And then slowly try to find the uppermost segment of your back. And slowly, segmentally, one at a time, tailbone's last to come. Control. Try that a couple more times. So we're going to tuck. Try to, from one end of your spine, unfurl and gain control of those deep, deep muscles that are connected to your vertebra that control your posture. A lot of times when people have poor posture and they go to the gym and they do these rows and they still don't have results, it's because you've only trained the global muscles that go from top to bottom, but not the very deep muscles that connect only 2 to 4 or 4 to 6 vertebrae at a time. And that is actually your internal structure, right? You see where I'm headed here? This is what I want for us, is to go deep and work from the inside out versus just kind of shiny, happy people on the outside. All right, so segmental. Now we're going to go leg out, and we're going to rock our butts back, lifting the tailbone a little, and you should feel the adductors. Those are the group of muscles in the inner thigh, and they may be a bit tight. We're just going to the degree that our knee will allow us, based on your body experience, you're going to rock back and forward and allow that opening to, so this is more hip opening. So much of our emotional trauma gets stored in our hips, and we need to create more space. and switch. So we do about 8 to 10 of these. Push the butt back, keep the tailbone slightly lifted, the toes point forward, and you rock back. And there is, I say 8 to 10 is the range, but you want to listen to your intuition, listen to your body. It will always tell you what you need. Good. Okay, so now we're going to open up now we've created some space. We're going to actually utilize and mobilize the space in our upper back. So we're going to lay down on our backs. We're going to take a leg over, bring our hands together. So I'm going to take my right leg over, my right hand's on top of my left. My spine is in a straight line. I'm getting long through the top of my head, and I'm going to open from my back. Different than opening from your arm. I'm not opening my arm. I'm opening from my back. If my arm were a noodle, I could still do it because I'm using my back to do it. So try to open from your back. Okay, the breath here is inhale and exhale. Now, hold here. We're going to do a little bit of movement. We're going to bring our knee up as we bring our elbow in. Okay, so I'm bringing my knee up as I'm bringing my elbow down, making a half of a W, right? So I'm going to straighten my leg, straighten my arm, and bring my knee up and my elbow up. I'm mobilizing. I'm mobilizing. Breathing. Breathing. Get long and get short. Get expansive. Get contractive. Doing this creates space. It repatterns this X pattern of our body. You do it enough, you start to feel the shift in the tissue, and it becomes more open. Great, let's do the other side. Okay, we'll take our left leg over. I'm going to turn around this way for you. We'll take our left leg over, and left hand on top, get long and open. Just feel into this position. This might be enough for you just to be here, and that's okay too. If you don't want to move, you don't have to. You can inhale and exhale open a few times. If you're ready for some movement, then let's do that together. So we'll straighten out the arm and the leg, and we'll bring them up. Knee up, arm down. Stretch out, bring it down. Really opening up. If you want more opening, you reach this down hand, reach it at the same time. You really open up the center of the back. So the center of the back being held keeps your heart space, right? If you feel like you have resistance at your back, resistance in your back, it keeps you from accessing your heart space because it rounds you. Good. All right. Finally, we're going to get into some internal integrity, and then we'll breathe. Okay, internal integrity is here. You're going to squeeze your butt and hold. Connect to your feet. Connect the glutes to the feet. Feel the balls of the feet, the big toe, the little toe, and the heel, squeezing the butt. So we're not pushing the hips up, and you should have no tension in the back. You're squeezing the butt. Squeeze the butt and use that squeeze to lift. It's a different feeling than pushing the hips up. Squeeze and up. Integrity. 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 Good. Lastly, we're going to pull the belly button in and lift the leg. We're going to press the back down gently into the floor, just enough so that you feel a sense of integrity, not like you're trying to lift a car, just a sense of integrity. Like I can lift my leg without my back arching. Keeping your chin neutral. Don't let your chin lift. Find integrity in your belly. If this is too easy, you can start here. If this is too easy, you can start here. The back, no arching. Okay? We do 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Okay. Now to integrate, we're going to put it into a pattern, okay? So you're just going to do a squat. So you want to keep your spine neutral. Your feet are a little bit wider than hip distance. Spine is neutral, meaning it's not stuck out, but it's simply sinking down. Squeeze the glutes, squeeze the quads, and come back up. We'll do 4 more. Integrating, squeezing, and up. Integrating, squeezing, and up. Integrating, squeezing, and up. All right. How are we feeling? Let me just check in. I'm going to change my my camera here. Back down here. All right, so that was structural integrity. We also opened and aligned quite a bit. And then we integrated with a movement pattern that's actually primal and also one that we use in our development as humans.
Takia, yes. Thank you so much. You just gave us a free offering of the harmonic body experience. Is that what I'm getting? Is that the truth? We got a free experience from that. Thank
100.
you so much. That was amazing. I actually have an injury on my right leg and my ankle and my knee and all of that. So doing some of these movements really felt good as I'm like in my physical healing process, you know. You said so many great gems today. There was one in particular that I really wanted to acknowledge you for because it really stuck with me. And it said, there are no inner enemies, just inner me's. And I absolutely love that because how many times have I not had grace for myself? How many times have I beat myself up over thinking I'm not doing enough and I'm not doing it well, or oh my God, you know, and all of these thoughts kick in, and just knowing that like I can be, and similar to Polaris's take yesterday, where it's like we can be all of these things, right? Or you can have all of these thoughts, be all of these yous within, and that is beautiful. So I just want to thank you for that, and also just want to know a little bit more about your work and your intention and what has inspired you. That's my first question, actually. So, what inspired you to get into this work?
Yeah, I think growing up, I was very uh, kind of shut down a lot. I had a very tumultuous childhood, and I sought movement as a way to. I found power in myself first, in my physical self, and that was kind of where my journey started. Is when I stepped onto the field, I let go of all my worries, and
Yeah.
it brought me into presence, and I recognized the power of that, and it's been a path ever since. Always wanting to help elevate the world somehow. I know that I couldn't have been the only one who needed that to find their power in their body, so that they could also find their power in the larger source perspective.
That's beautiful. Thank you. You So my next question is actually for the harmonic body experience, right? For those who want to take an offer, who want to register, who want to be a part of the work that you do, what is your end result for the people that come in um, to receive the harmonic body experience?
Sure. Well, as a coach, I always want for the people that I work with I want for
Yeah.
them what they want for them. So
Mm.
everyone will likely get a little bit something different from it, but but what everyone will get is feeling more aligned, more free. Also, what I find a lot of people tell me is that they feel more present in their lives, so they're more productive, more creative, and they have a palpable sense of self love that they didn't have before, a self acceptance, really, because your degree of self acceptance will always, be to the degree that you feel like you belong. And so addressing these two fears of belonging and
Mm.
safety helps people move along this path of self-acceptance, which ultimately lands them in a place of solidarity with self.
Thank you. And my last question is, how does this work align to maybe the greater aspects of your life or the artistry? I believe that you're a poet as well, right?
Mhm.
And I know you've gotten into freestyling and doing a little bit of different things. So how does this work align to those things?
Yeah, it's very related. I've had to combine all the things that I love into one because I always would feel like I was leaving something behind that felt essential.
Yeah.
And so when I'm in my full presence, I know I'm also my most creative. And
Mhm.
I know that when I write words, they are impactful.
Yeah.
And when I say those words in my full presence, they land and actually are transformative.
Mm. Beautiful. So I do want to end with this last quote by you.
Mhm.
We are wonderfully made human. So for those of you that are watching, do not forget that we are wonderfully made human. And I think that's going to be my affirmation for the day. I am wonderfully made human. Thank you so much, Takia. Thank you for everyone who tuned in. Thank you for the LMC podcast season 2. We are coming very, very soon. We are at the end of our virtual summit. It has been a wonderful, wonderful experience. I want to give a special shout out to Sanchel, who blessed us on Friday, and Polaris, of course, who blessed us yesterday, Saturday. And Takia, thank you for your offering. Thank you for everyone who stopped by to watch. Stay tuned. Stay tuned. Season 2 is coming. Thank you for everyone. We love you all, and we'll see you real soon.
So I'm going to post in the comments the link to the harmonic body experience. If you're interested in knowing more about it, you can find out here. And through the weekend, I'll actually be giving 50% off the offering, which is a fantastic deal. So with
Amazing.
that, I thank you for this time, and I know I definitely went over, but this is when I'm in my heart space and doing my thing. This is what happens. I give, I give, and because I love the people.
Shout out
So
to Coach
thank
Akua.
you.
Sorry if hope I'm pronouncing your name right. Am I pronouncing the name right, Tony? Coach Akua, shout out. That was a beautiful comment that you left for Takia. Thank you so much. Oh, I think Tony, we're having technical difficulties.
Coach Akuya. Oh,
Takia,
you saw her? You saw her on here?
I love the comment that she left. That was beautiful. Thank you so much.
Find my center. Okay, there we are. Yeah. So thank you, Takia. Thank you, sincerity. The split screen got me here, and I'm signing out from the Car Senegal. We want to thank everybody for dropping through, dropping by. We saw you, Jamila. We saw you. Those are my Fast Girl sisters. And Jamila is my travel buddy, my Eat, Pray, Love sister on the road with the Passport Mamas and sisters. Takia, thank you for your brilliance and for your genius. And you guys, we're all going to keep building. This is the Lyrical Meditation Cypher podcast is becoming a hip hop, spoken word, creative, progressive wellness platform uh, and for women. And we're excited about what is to come. Thank you, Sanchel and Polaris. We are out. Peace and blessings, y'all. And stay tuned for what is next. Bye bye.
So can you end the live?